Welcome to Sports Guy Talking. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am joined by guest Shawn Davisson today to give our biggest takeaways for the 2022 NBA Draft. There were certainly lots of surprises throughout draft night. Heck, there was even confusion amongst some of those draft trades that happened last night, as far as I'm concerned with those trades that happened that were executed. Before I say anything else, though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. What are your three biggest takeaways from the 2022 NBA Draft?
All right. I'm gonna start with my biggest one. My biggest one is that big men aren't dead in the league in today's league. I mean, look at the first four picks. You had Apollo, big man, Chet, big man. I consider him a big man more than a forward, actually. I consider him power forward center more than a power forward, small forward. So this league, as much as people want to say it, is you just looked at an MVP where it was Jokic and then Embiid, two best players. And then you have four big men going in the top four picks. I don't think big men are dead. Maybe big men overall, not dead.
So those are your three biggest takeaways that you got, right?
So that's my first one.
All right.
My second one, Jabari Smith not going number one. Big takeaway. Because for months now, we thought it was Jabari Smith, and if it wasn't Jabari Smith, it was Chet. And we saw an overnight. I don't know what happened, but the Magic. I don't know if they had set on Paula the whole time or if it was a sudden shift for some reason. But I thought it was crazy that that Jabari Smith fell to number 3. I don't think that should have happened, but biggest takeaway right there. That's my second biggest takeaway. And then my third is just seeing all the Duke players go in the draft. 5 went, 4 went first round. I mean, Duke, as a Duke fan, I had to throw this in there because they're continuing a tear for developing NBA players. Now, will all of these guys hit? No. Will half of them hit? Maybe. But, if people are going to start looking at Duke, so that's my 3 biggest takeaways.
Well, here's going to be my 3 biggest takeaways. I think they're going to be a lot simpler than yours, although I totally followed your points entirely. I do agree with some of what you said, but my biggest takeaways, well, I'm going to start with the first one. There were not a lot of major trades. Adrian Wojnarowski, NBA Insider, said on Wednesday that there were going to be a lot of trades for players, a lot of big-time trades that would be coming up on draft night. That did not happen. Outside of the Pistons making a 3-team trade with the Knicks and the Hornets, not really anything too major on that front. Of course, trades happen. Draft night trades, they always happen. But it wasn't really anything major. There were no major pieces being moved around. So that was my first biggest takeaway. So it's pretty rare to see Adrian Wojnarowski wrong a lot. But he was wrong on that front. So to me, that was one of the bigger surprises. And which leads to my next point. My second biggest takeaway was that there were a lot of surprising picks being named. Paulo going 1? Huh? I was stunned with that by that. I truly could not believe that. You and I, we made a mock draft on this yesterday, and a lot of our picks did not stick. Plain and simple. Let's just say that, just to put that nicely. The only picks that we got right in the lottery was Chet at 2, Sokan at 9, and I'm sure a lot of people were probably surprised by that pick themselves, and then Abajue at 14 to the Cavs. Other than that, none of the picks that we picked actually happened. So there were a lot of surprising picks to be made. Lots of confusions. Sacramento Kings taking Keegan Murray with the 4th pick. I mean, come on, man. And the Indiana Pacers, they're taking Benedict Mathurin with the 6th pick. I'm pretty sure nobody had that happening. Johnny Davis to 10 at the Wizards. I mean, come on. There was just a lot of confusing moving parts. And that leads to the next point. Number 3, my biggest takeaway, the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks, they made a lot of moves on draft night. But they made a lot of moves that don't necessarily make a ton of sense. I mean, it's a lot of confusing moves. For what exactly? I mean, they trade the 11th pick. They attach that with Kemba Walker. I mean, his contract's bad, but it's not like horrifically bad. But they basically attached that for a future first-round pick, essentially. And I know that they also got some draft capital back from the Thunder because they traded with the Thunder. It's kind of complicated and everything like that. The point is they shipped off Kemba Walker so they could get a bunch of heavily protected future first-round picks and they don't really get much of anything in return. I mean, I know they're trying to open up space for Jalen Brunson, but I don't really understand what's the point, because Jalen Brunson is not a needle mover. He's not going to make the New York Knicks all of a sudden legitimate contenders in the Eastern Conference. I mean, come on, Jalen Brunson, I like the guy. He's a good player. I think he's really underrated. But the New York Knicks are acting like he's their final piece to a championship run. I mean, even if they add Jalen Brunson, are we even sure this Knicks team would even be a playoff team? So to me, those are my three biggest takeaways from this.
Yeah, man. Agree with you at the Knicks. I mean, the guy you could have got at 11, I feel like was probably. I mean, not. I don't. I'm not gonna say they would be better than Jalen Brunson, because likely they won't. But these are guys they've scouted throughout the process. If they're confident in a guy at 11, they need to take. And I just didn't see that, and it just shows a lack of confidence and like just structure they have in that organization right now. I understand wanting to get a free agent, but all this for Jalen Brunson, like you said, don't understand it.
Yeah, and if they don't get Jalen Brunson in free agency, then that means all these moves was for nothing. So I don't understand why the Knicks are acting out like they have to go get him. I mean, it's not even like Jalen Brunson's like some all-star in the waiting for a team to go get him. But yeah, those are my biggest takeaways. Now let's go ahead and talk about the biggest winner. So who do you think the biggest winner of this draft was? And this has to be a team.
All right, so I'm gonna I'm gonna say three that I liked, but I'll stick with one. The Pistons just getting Ivy and for their young core. I saw Trailblazers, Shadon Sharp falling to them, superstar potential. That was big for them. But my biggest winner is gonna be the Houston Rockets. They got Jabari Smith at 3. I mean, man, this is a guy that probably should have gone number 1 overall. And if not, the number 2, and he fell all the way to 3. I couldn't believe it, man. I think the Rockets piece next to Jalen Green.
Those are nice picks that you made, but I'm not going to go with any of those three teams that you just gave. I'm going to pick the Oklahoma City Thunder as my biggest winner of this draft. Why? Because they got a guy in Chet Holmgren with the 2nd overall pick. Very impressed by that. Then they managed to grab an extra first-round pick. And yeah, I know that they gave up 3 extra first-round picks in the deal, but I mean, who really cares, because they're heavily protected. And not only that, the Oklahoma City Thunder, well, they got 1 million first-round picks. They need to burn up on some of them anyways. So they were able to get Zhang. He's a good player for them. He's going to step in, make some impact for the OKC Thunder. And then with the 12th pick, they selected Jalen Williams. He's also going to be a good wing player for them. I like that pick for the Knicks. And how about that 2nd round pick that they made? Jalen Williams, power forward out of Arkansas. Really love that pick. And I want to give some background on this guy real quick. I believe he's the first Vietnamese player to be selected in the NBA draft. He has part Vietnamese heritage in him. I'm also Viet as well, so I got to give a shout out to my guy. Really like his play style too. He's going to fit in with the OKC Thunder nicely. And the Thunder also made 2 trades that I really liked, because they had a first round pick at pick 30, and they traded that to get JaMychal Green and a future first round pick. Now, granted, it's a 2027, but I would have to assume that pick would probably be higher than pick 30 as far as I'm concerned. And really, all the Thunder had to give up was 2 future 2nd round picks. But like I said, they got a ton of draft capital. Doesn't really matter in my opinion. So for them to be able to grab an extra first round pick in 2027, man, that just adds to the war chest of assets that the OKC Thunder have. So I really like that in that regard. I liked all 4 of their draft picks, and I liked every single trade that they did on draft night. So for me, I'm going to have to go with the OKC Thunder.
Yeah, real quick out of Jalen Williams out of Arkansas. I saw a lot of Arkansas this year, and I like him a lot. I mean, this is a guy that's not afraid to play some defense, be in the paint. He takes charges. I believe he led the nation or 2nd in charges taken this year. I mean, this man is tenacious and pretty good on the offensive side. I mean, and then there's a lot of guys you can put on him and for his size, and he can shoot a little bit. I like that pick a lot in the 2nd round for them.
Yeah, he should have been a first round pick.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to switch it around to the losers. And I mean, we've hit on this a lot, but got to stick with the New York Knicks here, man. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. They came in with the 11th overall pick. I think they could have got a really good Griffin. I mean, you had Mark Williams on the board, Ochai Agbaji, Tari Eason. You had a lot of guys on the board. Jalen Duren. Like, they could have got a lot of these people, but you know what they decided to do? Traded away just in hopes of signing a guy like Jalen Brunson. And I'm not trying to trash talk Jalen Brunson. I like him a lot. I think he's a great piece to a team that's contending.
Mm. Well, I wanted to go with the New York Knicks as the second biggest losers, so I kind of agree with you on that, but I'm not going to go with them. I'm going to go with the Sacramento Kings as the biggest losers. Why am I going to pick the Sacramento Kings? Because I didn't like anything they do on draft night. With the fourth pick, they selected Keegan Murray, a power forward. Did not like that selection. The Sacramento Kings, what they did with that pick, that made zero sense. They could either pick Jaden Ivey, a guy that I'm not really too high on, but a guy that most people are high on. They could have selected him, or they could have traded back, or they could have selected Shadon Sharp, a guy that I would have recommended the Sacramento Kings to select. Instead, the Sacramento Kings decided to do neither of that, and they decided to take Keegan Murray, a guy that I thought had legitimate bust potential. And we know how the Sacramento Kings are when it comes to player development. They suck at player development. Yeah, I'm going to say that because that's the reality of the truth. They're not good at it. Keegan Murray, he's going to have a tough time in Sacramento. And I don't know how he fits next to Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. So to me, that pick made no sense. And then with their second round pick, they selected Jalen Hardy, a guy that they could have used in the G League, only for them to trade that pick to the Dallas Mavericks. By the way, that's a good addition for the Mavericks, in my opinion, for 2 future second-round picks. So the Kings, they get a 2024 second-round pick and a 2028 second-round pick, which to me, that doesn't help their immediate future out. So I feel pretty underwhelmed on the Sacramento Kings. They haven't made the playoffs for like 16 years. With those draft selections that they just did, they didn't get anywhere closer to making the playoffs. So I'm not encouraged by that. That's why I got to go with the Sacramento Kings as the biggest losers of this trade. Not this trade, but biggest losers of this draft.
So for me, for me, Jaden Hardy has a lot of potential. I mean, a lot of people saw him as a top 5, maybe top 10 pick before the season started, but he just didn't look very good, and so he fell. And so what they're drafting him off right now is based off potential rather than what they actually saw.
They traded him to the Mavericks, though.
So he could end up being good. Yes, he could end up being good for the Mavericks, but maybe this trade works out for them if he ends up not being very good. Now, for Keegan Murray, you're not very high on him, but I think he fits very good with this team. I think if there's a pick that they could have made that would have worked out for them, I think it'd either be Shadon Sharp or Keegan Murray. And I like Keegan Murray a lot. You know that. Keegan Murray, I think, fits very well next to them. I mean, how can a player like him not fit well in any single team? Any team in the NBA, he would fit with them because he can play inside. He can shoot threes. He can play on the ball. He can play off the ball. He can play defense, that sort of stuff. He can play multiple positions, guard multiple positions. I mean, any team in the country could, use a player like that. So I think he's a great piece for them moving forward. And I think he has a lot higher of a ceiling than what a lot of the country thinks.
Yeah, but you don't take pieces with the 4th overall pick. You take guys that you think can be future superstars at that position. Keegan Murray is not going to be that. At best, we're saying that he's going to be a pretty good player. Maybe on the off chance he becomes Pascal Siakam, but man, that's a lot to be hoping for in terms of that front. But that's just kind of how I'm looking at it. So yeah, that basically concludes how we feel about the 2022 NBA draft. So those are Shawn's biggest takeaways. Those are my biggest takeaways from it. We also gave out our biggest winners and our biggest losers. All right, well, thanks for being on the show, man. Really appreciate you coming on here. All right, make sure you follow his Instagram at Shawn.Davisson. Also, go follow his Twitter at Shawn Davisson2. All right, thanks for being on the show again.
Yeah, man, love doing the draft coverage. Sad it's over, though.
Yeah, for sure. But hey, now we got free agency coming up next weekend, off-season drama. That stuff's always fun. So yeah, maybe we can get you on here again. So that's just kind of where I'm at. All right, see ya, bro.
Yep, see ya.
Yep, bye. That was Shawn Davisson that you guys just heard. All right, so he had his 3 biggest takeaways being presented. He gave it out. I also gave out mine as well. And as for biggest winners, all right, me and him had a different answer, but I can see where he's coming from for that as well. And his biggest winner was the Houston Rockets. My biggest winner was the Oklahoma City Thunder. As for biggest loser, he went with the New York Knicks. I went with the Sacramento Kings. Still, though, we still agreed somewhat with how this draft played out. So that is why I have those 3 takeaways as my biggest takeaways, as I have the Oklahoma City Thunder being the biggest winner, while I have the Sacramento Kings being the biggest loser in the 2022 NBA draft. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in a future video. make sure to follow me on Instagram at Dustin Tran and at Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter at Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel Sports Guy Talking.